So last night in Portland, Oregon, in front of the federal courthouse, that same federal courthouse that the Black Lives Matter organization and the Antifa organization has been attacking for about 62 days straight, the Black Lives Matter organization started a bonfire, then threw in an American flag, and then all their members started throwing in Bibles. You heard me right. The Black Lives Matter organization was burning Bibles in front of a federal courthouse last night in Portland, Oregon. And some people watching this were bewildered. Like, why would they be burning Bibles? But if you watched my video, Marxists Attacking the Church, you know very well why they're doing it. Because the organization, Black Lives Matter, has nothing to do with Black lives. The organization is a Marxist organization whose sole desire is to overturn the foundation of the United States and eventually all the Western Hemisphere. They want to get rid of capitalism. They want to get rid of freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Because every Marxist, that's what they do. They always come after the church. They know the power of freedom is found in the church. And that's the foundation of America. And so that's why it's, I wasn't surprised at all. A lot of people are surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Just think about it. It was just a couple months ago where they tried to burn down a church. A church was burning. If it wasn't, for the Washington, D.C. Fire Department, that church would have been burned to a crisp. And the left in this country and the media, which is a big part of the left, they were more outraged that President Trump would go in front of that church the next day with a Bible and say, listen, I'm not going to let Black Lives Matter burn down any more churches in this country. They were more mad at that than Black Lives Matter trying to burn down a church. It's backwards. It's just backwards. Just like people are getting mad at people for not kneeling and disrespecting our flag that stands for the millions and millions of soldiers, Marines, and sailors that died to give us freedom so we could protest. So the reason Black Lives Matter is doing this, again, not because they're protesting systematic racism, because everybody, whether you're a Christian, a Jew, or an atheist, 99% of Americans know racism is wrong, and we all hate it. That's why the whole country was outraged. There was nobody that said what that cop did to George Floyd was good. The whole country was outraged, and these cops were fired, and they're getting tried for murder. So there's no systematic racism anymore. There was systematic racism in the 60s, and all the Democrats voted against getting rid of it. They voted against the civil rights law, and all the Republicans pushed for it, and we got civil rights. And slowly we started ensuring these rights to our African-American brothers and sisters. And right now, I'm telling you, there's no systematic racism. And you may not like hearing this, but when I got out of the Navy, the first thing I did was take a police test and a fire test in New Jersey. And on there, it gave you extra points. Like if I was a war veteran, I got 5 extra points. But because I did 4 years of peacetime, just for being a veteran in peacetime, I got no points, which was cool. They deserve it. They deserve 20 points in my view. But if I was African American or Hispanic, I got 5 points. And if I was a woman, I got 5 points. So I think this country is going above and beyond trying to right the wrongs of the past. But the past is the past. And every country had slaves. Every country in the world. In fact, the word slave comes from the word Slavic because there were so many Slavics that were enslaved. And they're basically white Europeans. So that was just normal. But what wasn't normal was for a country to fight a war to end slavery. What wasn't normal for a leader, Republican President Abraham Lincoln, to say if slavery isn't evil, nothing is evil. We know that was evil. But because it's such a great country and we made such a great constitution that we could put amendments in to get better, we got better. We got better. And, what they're demanding, like you see these black Hebrews demanding white people bow down to them, and these white people think that they need to and they're bowing down and kissing their feet. That would be like a Jewish man today going to his neighbor who's German and saying, because of what the Nazis did to the Jews, you need to bow down to me and kiss my feet. I mean, that's ridiculous. That German had nothing to do with the Nazis. And most Germans didn't agree with the Nazis. My wife's mother's family fled Germany because of Hitler. You see what I'm saying? Not every American was in favor of slavery. That's why we fought a war, and why my ancestors died from the North to end slavery. So this whole notion of we got to bow down and kiss someone's feet because of sins of the past, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. We need to treat them with respect, treat everybody. It's just a skin tone. When I'm tan, I'm darker than some of my friends who are biracial. It's ridiculous, and most Americans know that's ridiculous. I don't know anybody that judges people by skin color anymore. I'm sure that, of course, you got the KKK that the Democrat Party started in the 1800s, members of that and some white supremacists, but I've never physically met one. Have you? I mean, I know they're out there because I see the news reports, but it's not that common. In fact, as a blue-collar guy, I was thinking about this the other day. I'm a route guy. I work different jobs, but I always ran a route, truck driving route. And when a route goes up for bid, you want to find out about it. So, like, there's a route open in Orlando. There's a route open in Sanford. So you want to look, okay, how much money does that route make? So that's usually number one. But right next to that, and sometimes that's a big, that makes the final decision, is how cool is that manager of that route? And you don't say, is the route manager black or white? And I would say I probably ran 20 different routes in the past 20 years, and more than half of my supervisors were black. And that never crossed my mind. Or is my supervisor going to be black or white? And I guarantee it never crossed anybody else's mind. It was like, hey, is that supervisor cool? Is he easy to work with? Does he know what he's doing? It's never a black and white issue. So they're just using this to try to convince you. And the left, the left-wing media, pushing every day, America's racist, hate America, America's horrible. They're attacking all our foundations, our religious foundations. And they know this country was founded on Judeo-Christian values. Although most of the founding fathers were Protestant Christians, Timothy Gordon makes a great point that they had to base the Constitution on the Catholic teaching of natural law, because the Protestants that founded this country were Calvinists, and they don't believe in free will. In order for a republic to grow and prosper, you have to found it on Catholic natural law that gives men free will. But that free will gives them the ability to live moral lives. And without a religious moral society, according to George Washington, a free country will have total anarchy. And that's what these anarchists in Black Lives Matter and Antifa are trying to do. Give us total anarchy, totally upset, everybody upset, and just totally take over the country. And people hate when I talk about politics, but when they're burning our Bibles and burning our churches, we got to do two things. We got to pray, and we got to support the people that are on our side. There's an old story about a man in a flood. There was a big hurricane, there's a flood, and he's like, oh, God, save me. And the flood waters gets up to his neck, so he climbs on a roof. He's like, God, please save me. So a guy comes by in a boat, says, hey, jump in the boat. He's like, no, I'm trusting God to save me. So the guy rides by. Then another guy comes by in the boat. Hey, jump in the boat. And at this point, the flood water's over the roof, up to this guy's knees. He's like, no, I'm trusting God to save me. 5 minutes later, the water's up to his chest, and a helicopter comes by, throws down a rope, says, grab the rope, I'll save you. He's like, no, I'm waiting for God to save me. The guy eventually dies, goes to heaven, and says, God, why didn't you save me? And God says, what are you talking about? I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. So, although we got to pray, this battle is spiritual. Faith and works go hand in hand, hand in glove. So we have to work to protect this freedom God gave us, the freest, most prosperous, powerful country in the world. It's not perfect, but it's the best. And we need to do everything we can. And we have to support the people on our side. I mean, just think about it. Not too long ago, 9/11, when those New York City policemen went up into the Twin Tower, knowing half of them wouldn't come down, I think it's something like 150 of them lost their lives that day. Young policemen, widows, and orphans, because these men went in to save people. And for years after that, New York City cops were considered heroes. People in Florida were wearing NYPD hats. When the cops were walking down the street in New York, people were cheering for them. They knew these guys were heroes. Then, like 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, I'm watching YouTube videos in New York City, people throwing coffee on cops and laughing, and the cops not doing anything about it because they have a Marxist mayor. I mean, it's no longer these liberal Democrats anymore. There's a literal Marxist. I mean, I've heard the mayor of New York City quoting Karl Marx, he's a Marxist, and praising Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez. These are the people in the Democrat Party. I'm not saying Democrats that vote, I'm saying the people that run it. And this is why they're calling to defund the police. Since George Floyd, there's been over 1,000 cops injured with assaults. There's been over 10 cops killed over these riots. 3 federal agents who went to protect that courthouse because the mayor, a Marxist Democrat mayor in Portland, wouldn't let his cops protect it. So President Trump said, and U.S. Marshals, that's their job, to protect federal buildings. Out there protecting the buildings, were blinded. 3 of them permanently blinded because these Black Lives Matter protesters, Antifa, put losing track. Oh my goodness. They blinded 3. They blinded lasers. I'm sorry. I wasn't even prepared to make this video, but I read this article this morning and it just got me so enraged at what people are doing to our church and to our country. So I wrote no notes. Actually, I do have one note from the other day. It was going to be in a different video, but I'm going to use it today. And I'm going to end it by saying these Black Lives Matter demonstrators do not care about black lives. These Antifa members do not care about human rights. All they want is to destroy America, and they know the foundation of America is the church. So that's why they're burning Bibles, burning churches, tearing down Christian statues, and the only way they can get to that is by destroying our police. So if you're a Christian, you need to back the blue by voting red, because the Republicans are the only ones standing up for the cops right now. And every police association in the nation came out publicly and supported Trump. Even the largest one that supported Obama and Biden, because Biden is just an empty suit. He just changes with the wind. And right now, he knows his party is Marxist, and they hate the cops, and they hate the church. So he's got to play it both ways. He's got to come across as a moderate and say, oh, I'm not in favor of defunding the police, but I think, we got to take some of their money from the police department and put it in other areas. So basically, he's talking out both sides of his mouth. Don't defund the police, partially defund the police is what he's saying. In my view, the police need more money. I have a son-in-law who's a cop, and they don't make a lot of money. And he gets spit on during COVID. He gets yelled at. Since George Floyd, he lost 20 friends that he went to high school with. He's a young guy in his 20s. And they unfriended him on Facebook. They want nothing to do with him. And he didn't change. In fact, this kid, 6 months ago, ran into a burning building with 10 other fellow officers and saved 20 handicapped kids. They literally were passing these little kids one to another to get them out. And they didn't think, are these black kids, white kids? These were handicapped little kids, and this is what they do every day. So again, if you want to back the blue, you need to vote red, because the Democrat Party has been taken over by Marxists that hate our church, hate our police, and hate our freedom. They want to get rid of freedom of religion and freedom of speech, because in their view, that's hate speech and hate religion. Because if they disagree with you, they want to shut you down. And you see that in every Marxist country. You've seen it happen in Venezuela. You see it happen in Cuba. They always go after the church and the law enforcement. And I just want to end with this. What they want is a socialist society. And according to Catholic teaching of subsidiarity, and if you want to learn more about Catholic teaching on this subject and Catholic natural law, I recommend Timothy Gordon's book, The Catholic Republic. But this is a Catholic definition of subsidiarity. What citizens are able to do under their own power, government should not take over. Likewise, what smaller societies are able to do, larger societies should not. St. Thomas Aquinas, Catholic saint that even my Protestant brothers respect as a great theologian and philosopher, put it in perspective. What I just said, he says it this way: the child belongs to the father, not to the state. These Marxists want to take over our children's education. They want to take over our children's religious beliefs, and they want to destroy the United States of America. So back the blue, vote red, and when that American flag stands up, stand up for all the men who died fighting the Civil War to take down that Confederate flag. Stand in honor of all the men who died fighting the Nazis to keep us free. And all the men through the Cold War fighting these communists. And especially now when the terrorists have been trying to kill us. All these young men that have been in more combat than any war. These guys are going on tours 10 times, 10 deployments, in their lifetime. Where World War II, World War I, these guys maybe went on 1 or 2 deployments. These young men and women right now serving in our military are sacrificing more than you know. So pray for them and honor them by standing up for the flag. It's going to take courage because this world is backwards. It used to be patriotic to stand for the flag. Now if you stand, you're considered a racist. The world has gone bonkers. So God bless America. And I'll continue with my sacrament series. I was actually going to do that video today on holy orders. I'll continue with that tomorrow. But I seen this today and I just wanted to alert the troops because I'm sure the major media outlets aren't really going to report on this. You'll find it, Google it, and you can find it. But it's not going to be on CNN, I guarantee you that. God bless.